Let's go on the D&M Leasing Hotline. Behind enemy lines, Darren Urban of ArizonaCardinals.com, the website. Morning, man. Thank you for popping on with us. Is this gamesmanship with Kyler, or is he really not going to play at all tonight?
I guess we'll see. I don't know if this is really gamesmanship per se as much as, he got a foot injury. I think the Cardinals have played it pretty close to the vest in terms of how extensive it might have been. So I think this has more to do, again, with where he is health-wise. And, Kyler is going to be one of those quarterbacks who, if he's not able to move around in terms of scrambling and running, it's different than maybe if Joe Burrow perhaps has something similar where, it takes a lot out of Kyler's game if he can't move around. And I think that might be part of the equation.
Darren, how has Jacoby Brissett played? It's looked like, just watching him this week and keeping an eye on, how Arizona's played the last few weeks, it looks like Jacoby Brissett's held things down pretty well while Kyler Murray's been out.
Well, to be fair, the passing offense has looked even better since Brissett's played these last two games. Again, they're totally different types of quarterbacks. I mean, Jacoby Brissett's a guy who's just going to stand in the pocket and get blasted while he's waiting for his receivers to get open, and it's paid off for them in a couple of different ways. I mean, in terms of the passing offense, it's been more effective the two games that Brissett has played. And one of the things that's pretty noticeable is that the wide receivers beyond Marvin Harrison have gotten a lot more involved, and so they've been effective in that way. Obviously, has not paid off in victories, and it's gotten frustrating with his team, quite frankly, because of how close they've been. I mean, to have a 5-game losing streak and to have the total points that you've lost by is 13 has been hard for these guys. But in terms of the offense, Brissett's done a very nice job. And the question is, can they run the ball? They're down their top two running backs. They have not run the ball as consistently as they have the past 2 years. That was supposed to be the identity of this team. And I'd be curious to see what happens, especially against the Dallas defense, obviously, that struggle against the run.
Darren Urban from ArizonaCardinals.com joining us here on 105 through the Fan. Cowboys and Cardinals kickoff on Monday Night Football tonight. You can hear that right here on 105 through the Fan. Darren, you mentioned the Cardinals running game, and one of the big things for the Cowboys this offseason was got to get better in the running game, got to improve that area, and they went out and they got Clayton Adams to be the offensive coordinator and not calling plays, but having a really big hand in some of their run play design, and they've had a lot of success with it. What were your impressions working around Clayton Adams in Arizona and what you thought about him?
Well, I mean, again, he had the same kind of role in Arizona. He was the run game coordinator, but he wasn't calling plays. But clearly he did a nice job. I mean, this was a team that was around top 5, top 7 in the running game his 2 years in Arizona. They were super effective. There have been people that are wondering how much the Clayton Adams loss has impacted the Cardinals this year with how much they struggled on the run. Now, there's other things that have played into it. James Conner's been hurt. Trey Benson's been hurt. And just in general, their offense hasn't clicked as well as it had in the past. So, but Clayton Adams, I think, did a very good job. I think they were happy for him to get this kind of promotion. I mean, obviously, I'm sure they wouldn't mind having him still there, but I mean, this is part of the NFL is where you get good coaches and they have a chance to get promoted. You wish them well, and that's kind of how it works, and it's obviously paid off for the Cowboys in the run game, and it's been an impressive improvement that the Cowboys have made.
How has the development of Marvin Jr. been?
I think there's been kind of fits and starts there. He's definitely getting better. I think the overall struggles of the offense have impacted him clearly. It was difficult early in the season. The Seattle game on Thursday night was a roller coaster of emotions in a lot of ways. The Cardinals ended up losing that one in the final seconds. Marvin did not have a good first half, and in fact had a ball that he should have caught and ended up ricocheting off of him for an interception that was costly. And yet in the fourth quarter, one of the biggest reasons they came back was because Marvin Harrison was playing so well. So I think he's still a young quarterback. I think they're still trying to figure out all the best ways to use him. But I think he continues to look good, and I still think he's got a chance to be a very good receiver in this league.
Cardinals reporter Darren Urban joining us here on 105 through the Fan. You can check out his work at ArizonaCardinals.com. Darren, when you look at the Cardinals defense and kind of as we were looking ahead and trying to figure out what Arizona was all about heading into this game, it looks like a defense that really says, we're not going to let you beat us over the top. Like we're going to play a lot of cover 4, a lot of quarters coverage, make sure that we keep everything in front of us. We're going to try to tackle well, and we're going to be really about execution and not letting big plays beat us. Is that kind of been the philosophy of what Jonathan Gannon's trying to do there?
It sure has played out that way, right? I mean, and for the most part, it's been somewhat effective. Their problem right now is in the fourth quarters in these close games, they have not been able to get the stops that they've wanted to. But yes, they played more cover 4 than anybody but the Chargers coming into this weekend. They definitely don't want to get beat over the top. And, you know, I think that is a big philosophy over a lot of NFL coaches these days is, hey, if it's going to take you 10 or 12 plays to go down the field and score a touchdown, we don't think you're necessarily going to be able to do that most of the time because at some point you'll make a mistake or we'll be able to at least hold you to a field goal. And I'll be honest, it's probably frustrated some of the fan base at times because you're letting it seems like you're okay with them getting the underneath stuff, but they've been in all these games, and if they can just manage to get a stop or two in the fourth quarter, things would change dramatically, I think, for this team in the win-loss record.
Darren, we saw the injury report come out, late addition for Will Johnson, who's been really good, it seems like, for the Cardinals this year as a rookie corner. What is his availability tonight, and is there a chance that this evening the debut of Walter Nolan?
Well, in terms of Will Johnson, I believe he's probably going to end up playing. I know that Jonathan Gannon said on Saturday or Friday, whenever he talked, that the groin injury and holding Will Johnson to limited was more of a precautionary thing. He did miss 2 games earlier this year with a groin thing. So I anticipate Will Johnson being able to play. And I think there's a good chance you'll see Walter Nolan tonight. They have had a couple of roster spots open for a couple of these guys coming back. I believe that he's got a good chance to be one of those. I don't know how much he's actually going to play, considering, you know, he has only had a handful of practices since he came off of the PUP in the open of his practice window. And he obviously missed all of training camp. But he's somebody that they could use on the defensive line in this rotation. They've got a lot of good players on the defensive line. They've had injuries that have cost them, but I think generally they're happy with how their defensive line is played, and Nolan can only help that.
Darren, when you look at the Cardinals pass rush, you mentioned they've got some good players there, Calais Campbell, Josh Sweat. It hasn't necessarily equaled up to a ton of pressure rate or sacks. It's one of the lower rates in the league. And obviously Dallas last week had a lot of trouble blocking up the pass rush that Denver has. Is this a case of you think we might see some blitzing tonight, or is it just they've been close and they just haven't been able to get home with 4?
You know, that's a great question. You know, I think, number one, when you're talking about earlier how they're playing the coverages, I mean, I think in some ways it's easier for some of these offenses to do more quick passing if they're going to have got pass catchers open right away because of the way they're playing zone. So I think that's part of what has happened. But I'm curious to know, coming out of the bye, what kind of changes might be there. They've actually had a fairly low blitz rate all season long, and they've kind of just done the 4. And do things change a little bit coming out of the bye now that they have some time to do a little deeper of a dive? I mean, look, when you're talking about the Cowboys, you're talking about an offense that's playing excellent football, and obviously they can pass with anybody in the league. And I think that's something that the Cardinals are concerned about, and you need to get some pressure there. How does that work? Now, if they can get Nolan in the lineup, there's a chance Garrett Williams, who's one of their best cornerbacks, will also return from IR tonight. maybe that helps you change some things in the secondary where you're more comfortable playing more man-on-man instead of zone. I'll be interested to see that. So I think that's one of the biggest storylines tonight is exactly how they decide to attack Dak on passing situations.
Darren Urban joining us here on the D&M Leasing Hotline from ArizonaCardinals.com. How is the offensive line blocked when Brissett's been in there versus Kyler? Very different players.
Again, these last two games, Brissett's had some pressure. There's no question. And the last time they played before the bye was against the Packers. And I think they did okay, but Micah Parsons got off on them and had 3 sacks and caused a lot of trouble, especially down the stretch. It's been up and down a little bit, I think, at times. I think generally they've been okay. And the passing numbers have shown it because they've been pretty clean in terms of throwing the ball, and Brissett's only had 1 interception. So I think it's been solid. I don't know if it's been next level, but it's been solid. It's been better than average. And again, I think that's something they're going to need because it feels like there's a chance that there's going to be a lot of points scored tonight.
Darren Urban joining us here on 105 to the Fan. Darren, this is something that generally I like to ask anybody that we have on who's kind of previewing the game coming up, because I think it gives a good summation of where the team is at. But if you head out of this game tonight, if you're waking up tomorrow morning and you're writing about a Cardinals loss tonight, what do you think that looks like? What do you think it is that you're talking about of just like, hey, Arizona failed to do this or this was a problem again? What would be the reason after this game that you'd say, if this happens, Arizona's probably not going to come out of here with a victory?
Oh, that's an interesting question. The way this season has gone, it just feels like the first thing that pops into my head is it's a close game, and against an offense like the Cowboys, the Cardinals were unable to get that fourth quarter stop that they've been unable to get during this 5-game losing streak. And Dak is able to maneuver the Cowboys into a place where they score at the end of the game and break the Cardinals' heart again. It's hard not to get past that. If you're talking about like a bigger picture thing, I think that the pass rush thing might be part of it. Like, does Prescott just stand back there and pick them apart the whole game? Because I do think the Cardinals are going to be able to score some points tonight. It's just a question of, whether they can get that stop when they need to. And unfortunately for this team, at least at this point, they have not been able to do that at the end of games. And, once that has happened a couple of times, it's hard not to have that go through your mind again if the game is close. Thanks so much, Darren. We appreciate the time. All right. Thanks, guys. Darren Urban, ArizonaCardinals.com, joining us here on 105.3 The Fan.